Hello, my friends, and welcome to Postscript. It's nice to have you with us here, coming from Berkeley Springs in West Virginia. I want to talk to you about the government a little bit. I want to talk to you about why you shouldn't trust the government and some of the agencies that are in the government. I mean, this is not specifically about the government. It could be corporations, it could be associations or institutions, it could be religions, it could be any number of other things. But the point of the fact of the matter is that all of these institutions that surround us and that we interact with are all trying to get us to do what they want you to do. And they're using many different ways in which to do that. And few of them are clearly telling you the truth about something and giving you the options that are available and allowing you to make a decision. They're always trying to drive it one way or another, or influence it one way or another, try to get you to buy a new pair of shoes or whatever it turns out to be that they're trying to do. Now, this is an interesting product. It's one thing to know that companies are going to do advertising. They're going to put on their best face and they're going to try to tell you all the benefits that are going to come from buying your new pair of shoes or whatever it is, or that you really need a new pair of shoes, even though you didn't know that yesterday or earlier today. And, but you realize that that's what they're doing. You kind of got a sense of what advertising all about. I know about advertising. I used to own an advertising agency. I made a living at it. And if you make a living at advertising, it means that you really got to figure out how that all works and how you convince people to do things and make decisions that are beneficial to your client. Because if you can't make that happen, then you don't make a living. And that kind of communications is and by the way, this is it's not dumping on advertising per se, because there's a lot of things if you couldn't go to advertising to find out what the cost of a new pair of tires are and be able to do comparative kind of shopping around that, you wouldn't, it'd be much harder. And so there are very beneficial aspects of advertising and promotion that come there. It's just you always got to understand that to a greater or lesser extent that people are trying to manipulate it. Now, it's different with government. It's one thing to kind of know like I said, what corporations and companies are doing, what they want to do. But the government, it's different because starting with the Defense Authorization Act back in the last year of Barack Obama's administration, they made it legal for the government to lie to you and to us. In the past, there was even though they had put all kinds of things in the laws that said you couldn't sue them for this and all that kind of stuff. The government always does all these exclusions, so you can't sue Congress, and they're all outside of the laws that they pass. But in the past when I was growing up, there was this kind of basic assumption that what the government was telling you was generally true. The statistic that they were generating at the Labor Department or the Commerce Department and all of those things that you assume. I mean, they are the basis for all these decisions, the census. All of these things are fundamental to the all kinds of decisions that you make because you assume that you're being told the truth by government. Not the case. And it's not just de facto the case, it is legally the case. It's that the Obama administration made it legal for government agencies not to tell you the truth. And You could spend more time talking about that and you could look into it, but I'm here to tell you that it's literally the truth. That if a government agency has an agenda or an objective that they are trying to promote, regardless of whether it's beneficial for you or not, they don't need to tell you the truth. And you can't go after them because of it, because it's legal for them not to tell you the truth. It's exacerbated by the fact that as Catherine Austin Fitts and others have pointed out, is that the accounting standards that were put in place about 2 years ago also made it that there are no government agencies that have to tell you how they spend their money. They have to tell you the truth. They don't have to tell you the truth about it. And it was driven primarily by the intelligence community and the Defense Department, because they didn't want to tell anybody what they were doing and why they were spending money. And then they said, national security, we can't tell you. And the only way to allow that to happen within the framework of the government is to put in a standards that say you don't have to tell the truth, because if it's about national security or something like that. So now they don't even have to tell you what they're doing and why they're doing it, or what's the end of it, the effect it's going to be. They don't even have to tell you how they're using the money that the taxes that are collected. Now you want to think about that in terms of things like this whole COVID business and these immunizations, these so-called vaccine and so on that they're doing. You need to understand that they don't have to tell you the truth if they don't want to tell you the truth. The problem is exacerbated even. So when you work your way down into both the Defense Department and the intelligence community, the Defense Department probably is less so than the intelligence community, and there's some kind of integrity at some level in things that the Defense Department says. But in the end, both of them are very much operate within the whole kind of security system and all of the classification things. And there are literally different levels of classification where, instead of just telling you, well, we can't talk to you about that. There are some levels of classification where they can't even acknowledge that something happened that exists. And more so than that, then they are certainly legal. It's legal for them to dissemble and essentially lie to you of that. Now, the problem is most acute over in the intelligence community, because the intelligence community, our son once, when he finished his master's degree, was looking for something to do, and he once came to me and said he thought he wanted to work for the CIA and go into the operations side of the CIA. And I said, John, they are in the business of lying and cheating and stealing, and that's what they do for a living. And you really don't want to live your life doing that kind of stuff. Now, that's different, by the way, from the analytical side, which they call the intelligence part of the intelligence business. The analysts, there's some, in the past, I've met some really wonderful people over there who do their really best to try to understand what's going on in the world and try to provide good advice for the president and other senior people in the government about what's going on. But let me tell you, the guys who are on the spooks, the spies, they are in the business of you not knowing what they're doing and why they're trying to do it. And so they will lie to you right out through their teeth anytime they want to and to accomplish what they're doing. Now, you should really keep that in mind, because when some administration trots out something that says all of the intelligence agencies, there's something like 14 or 17 of them in different places and different government departments and so on, the military and so on. You have intelligence stuff. And when they come out and they give you a report and say, it's 14 intelligence agencies all agree on this, and you need to just kind of back up and say, wait a second. I mean, why? What are they trying to sell me here? Because to presume that they're telling you the truth is to be really naive as far as I'm concerned. And I know something about this stuff. I mean, I hung around Washington for a long time. I played in space a little bit. And so what, what, so now you can contextualize this. You're working yourself into a space that is uncertain and big changes and other kind of things. And on one hand, the government's trying to maintain the control because this track going this way is the control track right here. And you're trying to go up this track of independence and sovereignty and so on. And they are going to try every way they can to pitch you and convince you that what they want you to do is the right thing to do, and they have no obligation to tell you the truth. I mean, all you've got to do is watch out the WHO, which is the UN, but the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, they change their mind, whatever way they have. You don't need masks. Now you need masks. Well, maybe you ought to have 2 masks. Maybe, and regardless of what the science says, they're going to sit there and tell you that it's really important that you got to do this thing because we need you, because that's their agenda and that's what they're trying to do. And so this, there is this becomes increasingly important because if you think of the government as being a level of standard of integrity as you go forward, that you can depend upon in times of increasing uncertainty and change, you're going to be surprised, because I promise you, by the way, that the government is never out in the front of anything other than trying to take down some country or some other kind of thing. I mean, all the breakthroughs, all the creative thinking, it first shows up outside the government, typically in corporations and so on. The government, as the institute, is very conservative, and they're not going to get out in front. They're not going to do things that are disruptive to the stability and the security that they're trying to maintain inside there, so that they keep their job for all their career. And so you really need to think about this when in the middle of all of these changes, you get these edicts or these decisions, or governor tells you that you got to do something or whatever other kind of thing. The alternative is that you try to think for yourself and you try to make your own decisions and you try to gather information broadly and try to figure out what is right, because otherwise they'll just keep telling you what to do and where to go and what they want you to do, and they don't have to tell you the truth, and they're worse than used car salesmen or whatever the images that you want. And so that's something I always keep in the back of my mind whenever somebody you hear the population, or the census numbers, or the whatever it turns out to be. There's always, and there's political things underneath that they're always trying to twist the stuff in order to spin it, they call it, of course, in order to get their to their advantage. And this has to do with your health and your well-being and your future and your children and your ability to make a living, and then you really ought to be sensitive to all this, because if you assume that they're telling you the truth, because there's a level of naivete that you're just not aware of the reality of the situation. And so you need to be aware about that. So we'll see. Check in and sign in if you're new to this. It's a postscript, and you'd like to be kept aware of and alerts or receive alerts about the next kind of episode or the next segment that we do of this, then just down below, click on the link there and give us your email address. We won't sell it or do anything with it, but that allows us to be able to send you announcements beforehand so that you can stay current. So thanks. Look forward to seeing you next time.